This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch on this Veterans Day, Monday, November 11th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, cold wave. Get ready for some record low temperatures in the next few days across the country, from the north to the south. Taking action against the president, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley says top White House officials asked her to revolt against her policies while she was in the administration. And student athletes coming together in a powerful combination of God and sports. We're going to show you what goes on inside the huddle. And on this Veterans Day, we're going to hear how one man is using his business to help veterans for free. All those stories and much more ahead in this edition of CBN Newswatch. We want to begin, though, with some serious cold weather from Siberia. Yes, Siberia heading toward a large part of the United States, and it could set record low temperatures this week from New England all the way to Texas. With us now to take a look at what's coming is Weather Bell meteorologist Joe Bastardi. So, Joe, how does cold air get from Siberia to the United States?
Well, it's not that hard to do. It takes 4 or 5 days if you have the right pattern. And actually, the air mass in Siberia and over Alaska is not that cold. It's warmer than normal up there. But the problem is, if it gets delivered very quickly, warmer than normal air up over Alaska and Siberia delivered quickly into the United States, because the normals are higher, turn out to be very, very cold. So yes, it is Siberian air, but by their standards, and this happens quite often, it's when you get blocking patterns. And believe me, folks, you can see this coming from a long way off. I'm not just saying that. People, I come on when the weather gets bad, but you see me, I'm in my work garb this morning because I'm in the middle of work, and we have to warn clients about this a month and a half away. We were talking before the winter began of a false flag of winter, where like 2014, if you can think back to 2014, it got viciously cold in November. The models completely missed it. And it warmed up for a while before winter really came on January, February, March. You're going to see what happens. It's actually going to get milder across much of the United States next week into the week after. And I think December is not going to be that bad a month. Maybe a lot like 2002. And by the way, we don't want to ignore this. This is brutal cold coming. There's no question about it. Big snowstorm for this time of the year from the Midwest into the interior Northeast. And you're probably going to see snow, at least in the air, all the way down to Virginia Beach tomorrow evening. That's how strong this cold air mass is. But there's also going to be a little tricky system off the South Carolina, North Carolina coast this weekend. And we may see hurricane-force wind gusts. And this will be a non-tropical feature, but what I call a hybrid howler. And that may grab headlines this weekend with the threat of very heavy rains and very high winds, South Carolina, North Carolina, perhaps to Virginia Beach and up the coast, depending on the track of the storm after that. So there's a lot of weather going on this week. And then next week, a lot of it relaxes. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, good. What parts of the country will see this cold weather the hardest?
Well, from New England all the way down to New Orleans, into Texas. I mean, the norther that's coming to Texas is going to be pretty darn dramatic for the month of November. Real field temperatures tomorrow morning will be down in the teens and 20s all the way to Dallas. They will have a freeze in Dallas, probably Austin, maybe Houston. If you've ever lived in Texas, I grew up in Texas when I was like 6, 7 years old. The northers can be very dramatic, but this one is even more dramatic because it's coming very early in the year. And we're going to see the cold spread all the way into the southeast, and certainly record cold in these areas that are getting the snow today. When you have snow cover on the ground, enhances the cold. That's going to be going on in the Midwest tonight into tomorrow. Tomorrow night is a big cold night in the Northeast, the eastern part of the United States. Then there's a second shot of cold air that sneaks into New England this weekend, and the colder of the two high pressure systems may be that for New England and New York State, but its penetration southward won't be nearly as great. And of course, if that storm materializes, like we're warning you about, that'll probably grab headlines this weekend. And by the way, there might be a development in the Atlantic, an actual tropical development, but the real deal would stay way out at sea. It's a system near close to the coast that we're looking at.
All right, Weather Bell meteorologist Joe Bastardi, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Want to turn now to Washington. The Democrats' impeachment inquiry against the president goes public this week amid new allegations from former President Trump's former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, that she was asked to take part in an action against President Trump. Their hurt is on this story.
Nikki Haley alleges in her upcoming memoir that two former administration officials who were ultimately pushed out by President Trump tried to get her to join a revolt against his policies. Haley says then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and then White House Chief of Staff John Kelly were following a dangerous path. In her book, she writes that the two told her they weren't being insubordinate, but believed it was their decisions, not the president's, that were in the best interest of the country. She spoke about the incident to CBS.
It definitely happened?
It absolutely happened. And instead of saying that to me, they should have been saying that to the president, not asking me to join them on their sidebar plan. It should have been, go tell the president what your differences are and quit if you don't like what he's doing. But to undermine a president is really a very dangerous thing.
Kelly responded, saying that what Haley terms resistance, he called a process to help the president make an informed decision. And as the Democrats are taking their impeachment hearings public this week, Haley says she doesn't believe they'll succeed.
No, on what? You're going to impeach a president for asking for a favor that didn't happen and giving money and it wasn't withheld? I don't know what you would impeach him on. I mean, look, Nora, impeachment is like the death penalty for a public official. When you look at the transcript, there's nothing in that transcript that warrants the death penalty for the president.
The televised hearings begin Wednesday. Expected to appear is William Taylor, a former diplomat to Ukraine, who testified earlier that millions in military aid would be withheld unless there was an investigation into the president's political rivals. Democrats have shut down Republican requests to hear from former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who was hired and paid millions by a Ukrainian energy company in what some suspect was a quid pro quo with the Obama White House. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Democrats running for their party's presidential nomination have had mixed reactions to the possibility of former New York City mayor, multi-billionaire Michael Bloomberg may get into the race out of concerns none of the Democrats currently running can beat the president. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders criticized Bloomberg over his wealth, while former Vice President Joe Biden said he was fine with Bloomberg jumping in.
I have no problem with him getting in the race. And in terms of he's running because of me, last polls I looked at, I'm pretty far ahead.
I think that our elections should not be something that are bought by billionaires.
Sorry, you ain't gonna buy this election.
Sanders campaigned in Iowa for the first time with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who has given him a key endorsement. More than 100,000 people took part in a celebration in Germany Saturday of the fall of the Berlin Wall 30 years ago. Leaders from Germany, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic attended at the location where one of the last parts of the wall still remains. The wall had divided Free West Germany and Communist East Germany. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan gave his famous speech at the Berlin Wall, calling on the leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, to prove he wanted peace and prosperity.
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
A statue of Reagan was unveiled Friday in Berlin at a location overlooking the president's historic speech. Pastor and best-selling author Francis Chan made a surprise announcement last week. He's leaving his church and moving to Asia to become a missionary. He told the staff and students at Azusa Pacific University Chapel why he's making the radical change.
A few months ago, we were in Myanmar, and My wife and I and kids were just with a translator going from hut to hut in these slums and trying to explain to people who Jesus is. And these people had never even heard of him. And the eagerness, the way they listened, and seeing people get baptized, and it was just like, whoa, what do we do on a normal day that even compares to this? And so as we got on the plane home, I'm like, honey, I think it's time to move. It's kind of like, I describe it like this. I feel like I've been fishing in the same pond my whole life. And now there's like thousands of other fishermen at the same pond, and our lines are getting tangled, and everyone's, fighting over stupid things. And one guy, tries some new lure, and we go, oh, he caught a fish. Let's all try his method. And it just feels like, what are we all doing here? Like, what if I heard of a lake that's like a 5-mile hike away, and no one's fishing it? And they're saying, man, the fish are biting, just throw a hook in there, and they'll go for it. Man, I'll make that 5-mile hike if I love fishing. Like, what would keep me at that same pond? I'll tell you what would keep me at the pond is I built a house on the pond, and all my friends have houses on the pond, and we don't even fish that much. We just go out and we hang out and we talk and we play, and I don't want to leave my friends. But if my calling is to go fish, and there's no one fishing over there, why wouldn't I go?
Chan added he believes too many Christians are trying to appease non-believers. He says it's time to preach the hard truths of the gospel. Coming up, about 250,000 churches, students, and athletes and their friends are coming together this fall for what they call Fields of Faith. Their goal to show that God and sports make an awesome and powerful combination. We're going to have that story when we come back.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the home front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Well, it is not your typical huddle. These student athletes are part of a powerful combination of God and sports, and it's happening, believe it or not, on public school grounds all across America. So exactly what happens in the huddle? Paul Strand takes us to the Fields of Faith to find out.
You might find this hard to believe, but out here in the public schools of America, there's a thriving network of Christians meeting right here on the fields where they play. Since 1954, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or FCA, has been a force helping about 2 million coaches and student athletes each year combine their love of sports with their desire to know God better. Now their competitiveness and teamwork is on display across America. FCA recently took its Fields of Faith initiative to Loudoun County, Virginia.
On a public school field, we get to hear the gospel presented, and that's powerful.
Athletes like Washington Redskins center Chase Roulier compared a life with Jesus Christ to one without him.
Going out and partying and you know, chasing things you shouldn't be, you're going to be very lonely. But if you have a relationship with God, you know, you're going to be very full. Your heart's going to be full of Him.
Local youth pastor and sports fanatic Lee Banton.
There's a lot of people that say they think they have it figured out, but they're still searching. But those that have found Christ, they're like, I'm not searching anymore. I found the truth.
Defensive safety Connor McCarthy spoke of a sports injury that would have crushed him had it happened before he came to trust in a good God.
He has a plan for everyone that you have to, if you trust His plan and really accept His grace and His love, that, you know, things in life will just start turning around, and you'll start viewing the hardships and start viewing them as opportunities to get better and closer to God.
They testified those who find Christ find hope.
When they figured that hope out, that changes their entire life.
I would not be as at peace as I am right now.
It's just in my own life, man. I've seen it be real and change me.
Football player Max Skirkanich testified how the God of peace coming into his life drained him of a furious anger.
I would get at least probably like 2 to 3 unnecessary roughness penalties a game, just because I would get angry, and then I would like use that as like my motivation. I truly gave my life to Christ when going into 10th grade year, and so then I really started realizing that like playing for the Lord, I didn't need to get as angry. So I went from being a hard-hitting linebacker to a kicker.
Cross-country runner Christina Gay finds God and her sport take her to a higher level.
Running is a way for me to just worship the Lord, and I use it as an act of worship, and I use it to pray and just be at peace.
And having Him in the center of your life can really have a huge effect on you.
FCA's Virginia director celebrated this night of testimony and worship on this one field.
We've got 16 schools represented, public high schools, and they're all coming together tonight to celebrate what God's doing on their campuses.
Everybody loves sports. No matter, you know, it's just in our culture. Why do we focus on coaches and athletes? Because they're influencers in our society.
And I think students are the one that are changing the world. They're the next ones to change the world. Why would I not want to impact them for Christ?
That impact goes on at schools during weekly FCA gatherings called huddles.
A time of fun and fellowship, read God's word, somebody will lead a devotional or a thought, and there's some discussion. The goal is to be challenged spiritually, but also just be encouraged knowing that you're with other men or women or boys and girls that share the same faith as you.
Huddles are wide open to everyone, especially non-believers.
However they come, we know that when they do come, the Holy Spirit's going to work on their heart through the Word of God.
Such gatherings played a big role in Roulier's life.
Coming to events like this and hearing people speak was a big part of my testimony and growing in my faith.
The effect of these get-togethers can be thrilling, like what Diner told us is happening at one Loudoun County school.
On any given week, they could have between 80 and 120 students attending, which is close to 20% of the student body. During the week, they're praying for friends that are going through struggles, so they're actually taking it from meeting once a week to actually having an impact on the entire school.
What the Fellowship of Christian Athletes gives these students is not just a love of the games they play, but all those that play the games and all their fellow students. It teaches them to act like leaders, but also to think like servants of Jesus Christ. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Fields of Faith in Ashburn, Virginia.
Still ahead on this Veterans Day, we're going to hear how one man is using his business to help veterans for free. Stay with us.
Having sex before you're married is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
And welcome back. Today, America honors the men and women who so bravely serve our country. Mark Martin recently spoke with one man who's using his business to help them for free on this Veterans Day.
Most of us would agree that we can never do too much to pay back our veterans for all they've done for our country. Clint Phillips would agree, and he's offering free virtual care for veterans on Veterans Day. He joins us now to explain. Clint, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be with you.
Yeah, great to have you. Tell us about this program for veterans called Operation 1111. What kind of care can they receive?
It's an incredible opportunity for a veteran to not even have to leave their home and be able to consult with a primary care doctor, a dermatologist, a psychiatrist, an orthopedic doctor, and a few other specialties depending on the needs of the veteran. And it's all done by text or video with somebody who greatly appreciates the service that the veterans have provided for this country.
Tell us about how the idea came about.
I've been in healthcare for quite a while. I was thrown into what we do when my little girl had a stroke when she was born 10 years ago. That led us to start a second opinion company, and we realized that most people cannot travel to Boston or to New York to be able to get a second opinion from a top doctor, and wait times were often months and months. We experienced a 7-month waiting list to get to the right doctor for our daughter. So we started a company called Second MD, and that solves complex medical problems by getting you a second opinion with the best doctor in the country for your condition. And that's become a really big business that helps about 10 million people now. But we launched a new app called Medici that allowed for people to simply text with their doctor, their veterinarian, their psychologist, their dietitian, their nurse, depending on who they had in their medical world. And we thought we've spent millions and millions building this incredible communication app. Who could we really deliver life-impacting change for? And our team sat around for a day, and they came out and they said, what if we did this? We offered free healthcare for every veteran in America, that these guys and girls would be able to get a level of concierge access that was, they'd only dream of being able to get.
How do you see this helping veterans? You talked a little bit about that, but talk a little bit more, since many receive their care through veterans hospitals. Is this going to be a little bit tough to get vets to buy into this?
Veterans are often having to wait weeks to have a simple consultation with the doctor. So we hope that we could maybe clear the VA backlog in a day. People who've been waiting weeks to get a prescription, to get a referral, to be able to understand their condition and be able to get some insights. To be able to do that in one day and maybe clear a lot of the backlog to allow the veterans who need to go in to the VA to do that, we think is an incredible opportunity for those who are either waiting for care or those who are not sure about what next steps to be able to do, to have a trustworthy, independent physician who's willing to provide you great care for free. We hope we'll have a lot of impact at various levels whether you're getting care from the VA or you have private insurance or you're not sure what to do.
How can vets participate?
Veterans can go to medici.md/veterans and they can register, tell us a quick little thing about who you are, takes about 30 seconds, and we will assign you a time for you to get help from the appropriate doctor or specialist on Veterans Day 11/11, Operation 11/11.
All right, Clint Phillips with Medici and 2nd MD. Thanks for what you're doing to help our vets, Clint.
Thank you for spreading the word with us.
And we're coming back with an encouraging word for your day today. Stay with us.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Time now for your Monday motivation. Here's a word to jumpstart your week. It takes faith to please God, and it doesn't have to be the strongest faith. Faith the size of a mustard seed is enough to move a mountain. It's also enough to move God. With that word, walk in faith today and make it a marvelous Monday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a marvelous Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.